Once upon a time, in a land of lush green hills and magnificent palaces, there lived a kind man named Edward who had two daughters, Clara and Lila. His first wife had passed away, and the sisters were each other's only support. Both were extraordinarily beautiful. The elder sister, Clara, had golden hair that sparkled in the sunlight and eyes as green as the forest. The younger sister, Lila, had deep black hair often adorned with pearls, and her blue eyes were as profound as the ocean. But beauty was not their only gift. Clara was a master carpet weaver, able to create a carpet that could cover an entire kingdom, while Lila was such a skilled cook that she could prepare a feast for the entire realm inside an eggshell. Though their father was loving, he remarried. His new wife, Margaret, hated the sisters and filled Edward's ears with poisonous words, convincing him that they were a burden. Eventually, misled by his wife, Edward made a dreadful decision. He left his daughters in a desolate place. One morning, he called Clara and Lila to walk with him in the garden under the pretense of picking the juiciest apples. Excited to spend time with their father, the sisters dressed in their finest silk, Clara in red embroidered with beautiful patterns, and Lila in deep blue adorned with tiny pearls that sparkled in the sunlight. As they followed him into the forest, their laughter echoed through the trees, unaware that their father had already dug a deep pit and covered it with a delicate cloth, nearly invisible from the ground. From a high branch of a large apple tree, he called out, "Come closer, dear daughters, the tastiest apples are here." Trusting him completely, Clara and Lila stepped forward, and suddenly, the ground disappeared beneath their feet. The world seemed to spin, and they fell into darkness. The last thing they saw was Edward's face peering down at them, sorrowful, before he turned and left them there. The pit was deep, and its damp walls seemed to close in. Lila clutched her sister's arm, her blue dress smudged with dirt, while Clara's red dress glimmered faintly in the dim light. Hunger soon weakened them. Lila tried to use her skills to find food, breaking small stones in hope of something edible, but found nothing. As despair began to take hold, Clara prayed, and miraculously, a pickaxe and a small spade appeared in her hands. A new spark of hope ignited, and she began to dig. Her golden hair became covered in dirt, but her green eyes shone with determination. Hours passed, and Lila, weakened but supportive, encouraged her. Finally, Clara's tools pierced the earth, creating a path to freedom. Light streamed in, and they emerged into fresh air, arriving near the royal palace's grand stables. Surrounded by the scent of horses and fresh grass, their stomachs rumbled at the sight of golden almonds and plump raisins meant for the royal horses. Lila gathered a handful and shared it with her sister. For several nights, they survived on these meager rations. Their once magnificent silk dresses were now tattered, yet they still shimmered in the soft stable light. Soon, the royal stable guard, Thomas, noticed the horses weakening and decided to investigate. One night, he hid behind a pile of hay and saw Lila entering the stable. Her shining black hair glimmered in the moonlight. As she reached for the food, Thomas grabbed her wrist and called the others. Both sisters were brought before the young and handsome king, Alexander, clad in deep red and gold, whose sharp gaze softened when he saw Clara, standing with dignity despite her tattered clothes, and Lila, whose deep blue dress retained a hint of its former glory. "Who are you, and why were you taking from my horses?" the king demanded. Instead of begging, Clara held her head high and replied confidently, "Your Majesty, we did not take out of greed but to survive. If you allow us, we can prove our worth." Curious, the king asked what they could do. Clara promised to weave a carpet that could cover the entire kingdom, while Lila claimed she could prepare a royal feast inside an eggshell. Though skeptical, the king decided to test them. Clara was given the finest royal workshop. Using her expert hands, she created a mesmerizing carpet of gold and silver threads, depicting mountains, rivers, and twinkling stars, so magical it seemed to extend beyond the palace floors. Meanwhile, Lila prepared her dish. Breaking an eggshell, she conjured a magnificent feast, savory meats, fragrant rice, and warm bread, all perfectly contained within the delicate shell. The court was astonished, and the king's eyes sparkled with wonder. Even in hunger and hardship, you kept your honor and skill. Women like you deserve respect, not confinement, said King Alexander. From that day, Clara and Lila lived as honored guests in the royal palace. Over time, the king grew enamored with Clara's beauty, grace, and wisdom. One spring, as roses bloomed in the palace gardens, he asked her, "You changed your destiny with courage and skill. Will you rule this kingdom with me?" Clara glanced at her sister, who smiled joyfully and nodded with a shy smile. After their marriage, Lila continued to lead the royal kitchen. Together, the sisters brought prosperity, justice, and generosity to the kingdom. When Edward learned that his daughters were alive and respected, he came to the palace in remorse. Tears filled his eyes as he asked for forgiveness, which Clara and Lila granted with open arms. Thus, a journey that began in a dark pit ended in light, honor, and love, a story that became an inspiration for generations to come.